Welcome to the Fans of Fitness podcast, a voice for fitness, health, and wellness professionals. Skye, excited to see you again.
Good to see you, Travis.
So glad to have you here.
Yeah, we get to see you again on Monday.
I know, right?
Yep. Yeah, so I know the class is super excited to see you. They've heard enough about you. It's always the first week of every term that I talk about NKT and what it can do. And once I explain it, and then I say, hey, how many people here have injuries? Most hands go up. I'm like, what is it? And they'll tell me what it is. And I'm like, good chance that you're going to get fixed. Next, what's going on with you? And they'll say something's wrong with them. And I'm like, all right, consider yourself almost fixed. And I'll throw out percentages. I'm probably off, but I'm like 90% sure that that's going to be fixed. Like Josh, he had a shoulder that you fixed. We can talk about that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But, everybody's excited. We're excited to have you back. I love watching everybody's minds get blown. I mean, that's how I was the first time I went through NKT level 1. I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
I still don't, even though I've since let it lapse. I'm no longer certified, but I plan on coming back for the next workshop that you hold. But anyway, I explain what NKT is to our students in is kind of like layman terms as much as I can do it. And the way I explain it is it's rewiring the motor control center through muscle testing. And that's as easy as I can make it. Can you make it any easier?
And most of the students I still gloss over.
They still
I
don't
have no idea
know.
what you're talking about.
Right.
Well, that's been a big difficulty is trying to explain, like, what is NKT to people and trying to, like, kindergarten the science down, if you will. But basically, the easiest way I like to describe it is kind of like your muscles are like a cell phone, and we want them to have full signal when we're doing whatever movement or, sport or whatever. And so a failed muscle test is kind of like a muscle or a cell phone with only 1 bar signal, maybe 0 bars. And NKT figures out, well, where is that signal being sent, and how can I get full signal back to this one muscle that didn't have any signal? So that's kind of like, it's kind of like your cell phones out in Sedona in a vortex.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
like, you got the brand new latest and greatest iPhone, but it's not getting signal, and it doesn't mean the
Right.
phone is not functional or that the phone is bad. So it's not the muscles are bad, it's just they're not getting the full signal. And
Right.
so NKT is a way to use advanced muscle testing or applied kinesiology and use these very specific protocols to figure out, okay, this muscle doesn't have signal. Where is that signal being sent instead? And how can we get it back to this muscle?
That's way better. I'm going to start using that one. I hear you say it when you're in class, but
now we can just copy this audio and just play it.
Hit
You're
play.
like, hey, so eventually we're going to have Skye come in, and this is what she does. Play.
Yeah, listen to the podcast, the first 5 minutes, and you'll understand better than I can.
Because I would not ever remember all that. But no.
Well, and it took me several years of role playing with clients of like, how can I, Sesame Street this for
Right.
them and make it understandable. Because if they understand what I'm doing and the why behind it, then they're going to be more compliant with doing the homework.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So
I just want you to come in with a little top hat with a rabbit in it and a wand because to me it's like magic. I mean, I couldn't believe in 30 seconds that an injury that had lasted for 2 years to where I couldn't do all kinds of things. In 30 seconds, you fixed it. And I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah, it was your shoulder, right?
Yep.
Don't you have a great story as to how that happened?
Oh, yeah. I was skydiving and,
Right.
my arm got caught up in the riser and
Yeah. What really happened?
I was reaching on to get my iPhone off the nightstand, reaching back over my head. And, yeah, that's because I'm old.
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's normally how it happens. It's
Right.
like, I threw my back out one time, bending over, picking up an empty laundry basket. And it's like, was it really the empty laundry basket? No, it was all the bad reps leading up to that.
Right.
Bad reps of picking up the laundry basket?
Well, picking up things wrong or incorrectly, or just having overall bad rotational patterns would
Right.
probably be the better way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and bringing that into awareness, like so many people aren't even aware of their bad movement.
Right.
100% agree with that. Yeah. Yeah, but we have all these functional movement patterns that we do, but that doesn't mean you're going to squat perfectly every time when you sit down.
No.
Yeah, so
Well, you're not really ever taught how to move. You know,
Right.
I mean, you learn how to walk with your parents watching you, and they try to catch you to fall down, but they don't really teach you how to walk. You learn how to walk on your own, and then most movements in your life, you do the same thing. Nobody ever teaches you how to run. You just run.
right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so whenever you start doing something on a regular basis as an activity, you're going to hurt yourself because you're not taught how to do that activity.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that real quick because you've mentioned that when you've come in to do your presentations to the class, when there's like the order of business, like from babies being on their back, not being able to roll over. The next step would be rolling over, and then
Oh yeah, I remember doing that. I remember doing that when you were there.
Then you come up into quadruped, you start rocking a little bit.
yeah,
Yep.
Then you learn how to crawl. Yeah.
learn how to pick
But-
your head up.
Yep.
You know, back to what you were saying is like nobody ever taught us how to walk. And it's like we learned how to walk from failing,
Right.
you know. But also we mimic a lot of our parents' bad gait patterns.
Sure.
A lot of people don't even realize that. It's like we learn from watching other people do it, but we don't realize that they're doing it wrong too.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's like I watch my daughter and she has my glute med dysfunction, even though she's never injured her glute med. But she walks like me because she's mimicking me. So it's a learned behavior.
Even at that age, you're picking that up.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
So now I got to go in and correct.
Greg, how old is she?
She's 6.
Are you doing NKT to a 6-year-old?
Not quite.
Not
I
quite?
mean,
Just correcting
they're
movement.
right at the age where they can kind of understand a muscle test and how to perform it. 6 is kind of about that age. Some a little younger, some a little older. But we could surrogate test. I mean, I've worked on a 1-week-old baby.
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they were not able to latch. And so we did a hyoid correction. It was like a 5-minute session, and baby was latching.
Really?
That's crazy.
And you
That's
just use
insane.
the mom as a surrogate or someone that the baby's comfortable with.
Yeah.
And there's even NKT for animals. There's an equine course for horses and, you know, vets and stuff who are working with the animals.
Yeah, I suppose if it works for us, it would work for animals as well.
Yeah. I guess
Anybody
so.
with muscles and a nervous system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But yeah, I mean, back to your point, nobody teaches us how to walk or run or squat right, bend over and pick things up correctly without injuring ourselves. So
Right.
we learn a lot of those patterns by just watching our parents and people we're around's bad behaviors. We don't even realize we're doing it.
Yeah. I
And,
mean,
then, and then 20 years later, we're stuck in a bad pattern.
even playing sports as a kid, I mean, I remember stretching before practice and like before a game, but they never taught us really how to run. Like even playing baseball, they really didn't even teach us how to swing a bat. They just told us to watch the ball and
Keep your eye on the ball.
right.
Yeah.
And instead of showing the right movement, and that's kind of where it starts. And then you kind of go, well, in Little League, I did that, and now I can do it in college and get hurt.
Right.
And no offense to Little League coaches, because, you know, God bless all the parents who are out
Oh,
there
yeah, for-
volunteering.
for sure.
But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, they're parents volunteering. They're not trained.
Well, when my son was 5 years old, I was the coach for his soccer team.
Mhm.
I didn't have any idea what I was doing. I'd played soccer when I was a kid, but no
At least
one
you
else.
had that experience.
Right, but no one else could do it.
Right.
And so I was like, I'll be a coach. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're 4 or 5 years old. And so it was more or less just keeping them in the field.
Herding the cats, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you discover neurokinetic therapy?
Wow. So it's a really entertaining story, but I actually lost the use of my right leg about 7 years after having my first child. And I was kind of dragging my leg around. Nobody could really seem to do anything with me. I mean, I went to all the specialists in the metro here. And I mean, I did physical therapy, I did acupuncture, I did chiropractic care, I got dry needled, is lasered and infrared and hypnotized. And I mean, I tried every modality I could think of, trigger point, I mean, you name it. And nothing was really making a change.
Did any of them kind of help?
Some of them gave me some relief in the pain,
Yeah.
but like nothing was restoring the movement. And, at the time I owned a 13,000 square foot gym, and I was teaching several spin classes a week, several Pilates reformer classes a week, trying to do personal training and stretching on clients, and I didn't have my right leg. It was
Wow.
kind of just dragging behind me. And finally I stumbled upon someone who did NKT, and there was only like 2 or 3 people in the state of Arizona at the time.
What year was this, do you think?
So this was a good 10 or 11 years ago.
Okay.
And anyway, I went into this person's office. I told them what had happened. They found my C-section scar was overworking for pretty much all the muscles in my right leg, like glutes, rec fem, all my hip
Wow.
flexors, hamstrings, you name it, adductors, whatever. And like most of my right abdominal wall. And that's what I could visually see is like when I'd put on a swimsuit, I had a 6-pack on the left, but on the right, like nobody was home. And so ultimately they stretched my scar out. They activated my weak muscles. And within minutes, I was walking like nothing had ever happened.
That had to have blown your mind.
That totally blew my mind. I went from dragging my leg for 3 weeks to teaching spin class the next morning, like nothing had ever happened.
Wow.
Yeah. And, teaching spin with only one leg is a little difficult.
It's difficult too.
I mean, I
Yeah.
made it happen. You got to, fake it till you make it in the training industry. But ultimately, I learned how to cue spin class off the bike so I could continue classes and stuff. But then after that correction, it was like, boom, it had never happened. And basically, my C-section scar was pulling signal from all the muscles in my leg.
Wow.
Can you explain how a scar affects the neuromuscular system?
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I'll explain it from a personal training perspective. But ultimately, you got to think that we have our fascia that's covering our whole body. We've got the superficial fascia layer,
Right.
and then we have the myofascia running around all the muscles. But in that big superficial fascia layer is where all our nerves are running through. And that's the top layer that we're cutting through before we cut through all the other stuff, for a C-section. But even in any surgery, if you're cutting through that fascia, you're cutting through the nerves and you're road blocking the signal. And the body is designed to protect us and to keep us moving no matter what. So we're going to reroute the signal to keep us moving. But we've got to stay protected so this place can heal. So ultimately, the scars are road blocking those signals and making our brain reroute around them. And then we can go in with NKT after the scars had plenty of time to heal and reroute that signal back to the muscles.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's automatic. That's the cool
Yeah.
thing. You don't got to wait. You don't have to do like 5 appointments. It's like right then,
Yeah.
right there.
Well, I mean, I know when you fixed my shoulder, it was immediate. It wasn't like, oh, you're gonna feel better in a couple of days. It was right then. I mean, it was instant.
Look on your face was priceless. You're like, what's going on? How is
Yeah.
this happening?
Yeah.
It was like 5 minutes on the table.
Well, because I had talked to my sister's a nurse practitioner, my wife is a nurse, my mother-in-law is a physical therapist, and then Emily's a massage therapist. And so I'd talked to all these people about my shoulder, and they're like, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it. And they'd told me stuff to do to try to make it better. None of it worked. And for 2 years, it was in pain. And then walked in, got on the table, and
Didn't even know what you were showing up for.
found out my core wasn't firing, and had like the and then you massaged that spot on my scapula, and and my shoulder was fixed. I was like, wow,
It's pretty
that's
cool,
insane.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And that's the magic of NKT is once you figure out what the pattern is, you get the instant relief.
Yeah.
Now, can the pain come back? Absolutely, because you can do enough bad reps to get yourself back into the dysfunction if this is some kind of repetitive movement pattern. Or if it's just an old injury pattern, you just have to do enough of the good reps to make the brain feel safe again, so it'll let that old pattern go.
And I didn't follow your advice and do all the homework I was supposed to. So
Of course.
Most don't.
after a while it came back, and I remembered where you massaged that, and I just massaged it myself, and it fixes it again.
Well,
And and if I did that on a regular basis like I was supposed to, I wouldn't have to go through that every 3 months or so.
right. Well, and that's the thing is like the homework is kind of just an extension of the appointment.
Right.
So, but sometimes we can do enough release work within the session that the brain feels safe about it. But you want to keep encouraging the functional movement.
Yeah.
So that's why we like to empower. I mean, I think NKT is very empowering because, again, when your pain comes back, I've empowered you with the tools you need now to make it go back away again.
Yeah.
And if you were just a little more consistent with that, the results and the effects of that would last longer.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got a current student right now who's seen you before. I asked her a couple days ago, "Are you still doing your homework?" She's like, "No." I'm like, do you expect it to get better then? No. You know what you're supposed to do today now? Yes. And I think we're all guilty of it because, I saw you 4+ years ago when I moved down here before we put the school in. And I was looking for somebody that knew NKT very well. And I was like, hey, this person's got a level 3. She knows it all. And I'm like, I'm going to go see you. But there's another reason I want to see you is because my SI joint's giving me trouble and killing me. At the time, I was addicted to golf. I just love hitting stuff really far and, poorly. So I came in to see you. We talked about how we could get together and bring this education to the students at the school. And then I think you, in about 15 minutes, made my pain go away. And then I had a tea time that afternoon. And in front of my friends, I had to do a couple things that looked kind of funny to make sure that pain didn't persist and stayed away. And I think I did my homework for maybe 4 days. And it was better. And because I wasn't reminded of the pain, I quit doing it. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people with the homework is, hey, I don't feel pain. I'm not reminded that I need to do it.
Right.
But it's not until you feel it again, you're like, oh, man, I need to do that again. What was I doing to make it go away?
Right.
So I hear that all the time with people that do some NKT, have somebody work on them, and the homework just goes out the window after the pain's gone. Just no reminder
Yep.
until there is again.
Well, and I remind people too, like sometimes we don't need to do the homework any longer. Like with my C-section scar, as long as I don't go have another C-section, it's probably not going to repeat itself. But if this is something like your golf swing that you're going to continue to play golf, and this is from your dysfunctional swing pattern, then, enough of those bad reps, you're going to have to start doing some of the good reps again.
Thousands in only one direction,
Right.
which isn't good.
No.
So does your swing get better when you've done that, or is it still?
I've only played 3 times in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
So you can't really tell whether the swing is better than.
it's not better.
It just doesn't hurt.
It's
It just
still
doesn't hurt.
awful. It's just with or without pain.
If you'd have more than one appointment and actually follow up with some homework, then he could better answer that question. I
Right.
think.
Yeah, I decided to quit playing instead of getting back on Skye Stable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But ultimately, the thing about NKT is certain muscles are going to be involved in more than one pattern. So when you're at the point of chronic pain, it means that area or those muscles in that area have probably been shut down for quite some time, and they're going to be involved in multiple layers of your onion, so to speak. Because it's kind of like my right glute max is the first to go. Like if the storm's coming, he's the dog running to hide in the closet as soon as the first thunder or lightning strikes,
Right.
Or like 4th of July, right glute's going to the closet, because that's kind of my problem child area, from
Right.
being a soccer player and a lot of the repetitive movements of soccer and running, So you have to think, what patterns are an injury, and once I clear that up, it's probably not going to repeat unless I re-injure it. Or what patterns are because of my sport or my desk job or whatever my lifestyle is. Those patterns are going to continue to return as you consider, continue to do that lifestyle movement or drive your car this way, sit at your desk that way. So I'm like, highlight that one because that's the one in 6 months. If you wake up and the pain's back, just do that homework. And that's how you can empower yourself to make it go back away.
Yeah.
And if the pain goes away, then you're good. If it doesn't, call me, and you've probably done something in the last 6 months to create a different pattern.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what are some of the hardest cases you've had to work with?
Wow. Probably one of my scariest, I had to go cry in the bathroom for a moment, was a client of mine who had fallen into a chopper box.
Oh,
So, they put a tree in on one end and wood chips come out on the other.
wow.
And luckily for him, like a bolt or something had fallen down in it with him, and it jammed the machine.
Jeez.
Yeah. So to say he had a few scars is an understatement. And then, that's not even the worst of it. Then he was in like an explosion and had like burns and was skin graft. And so like 30% of his body was skin graft.
And that was a different instance than
10 years later after the chopper box experience, and so now I'm seeing him about 30 years after all of that. He's got...
That's called bad luck.
I know. I'm like, dude, you're 7 lives into your 9. Like, stay at home.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm like, okay, scars hold priority, especially the ones in the midline. So of your 120 scars, we've narrowed it down to like 35. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go to the bathroom real quick. And I went to the bathroom. I cried. I'm like, dear God and Jesus, please help me figure out which scar to go to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's...
But luckily, I found the one that worked. And he got up and felt way better. And he's like, okay, how many appointments do I need? And I was
one
like,
for every scar.
I was like, well, if I were you, I'd just send your wife through the training program. It might be a little cheaper that route. But
Yeah.
it probably did take me about 2 years to get through all of his layers.
I'm sure.
And it was me and a team. I had, he was getting massage therapy, chiropractic, and acupuncture with the NKT. And I recommend that. Like, the more modalities you can kind of combine together, because NKT tells you what to release and what to activate. But then you want really good tools on both of those ends of the spectrums to do that release with or to do that activation with. So when there's really stuck tissue, like scar tissue and stuff, I would refer out to someone who can do the manual scar release work to go along with the NKT, if that makes sense. Or if they've got stuck fibrotic tissue, I'm going to want a massage therapist to go in and break up that stuck tissue, or the body's just going to see that as another threat and want to compensate around it. If the spine's out of alignment, they need an adjustment.
Right.
And the NKT is just going to make those other modalities hold so much longer. So when I can kind of get a team together to help my unicorn people, like Mr. I had 120 scars, that's how we can get to the finish line faster. Because NKT is an amazing modality, but it's not the only one out there.
So does all the team members need to be level 3, or can they be?
None of them are NKT. They usually aren't even NKT. It's just I'm the NKT resetting the pattern, and then I need you as the acupuncturist to go in and try to get this whole meridian cleaned up. Or I need you as the chiropractor to go in and adjust accordingly based on these muscles that are continually tight and pulling them out of alignment. Or I need you as the massage therapist to go in and release this. Or I need you as the personal trainer to go in and strengthen these areas because these are this person's weakest links, and they're the traditional weak links for this person. So I need you to really focus on, for me, my right glute. Because right now for me to go to the gym and do a squat, like my right glute's checking out. Right. So I have to make sure when I'm training that I've got a trainer that can understand that and help me really hone in on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there level 1, 2, and 3?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking hopefully it didn't jump from 1 to 3.
No.
What can you do with a level 1?
Well, you can do a lot with level 1. I mean, even with level 1, they could have fixed my C-section scar to, all the muscles it was shutting down. I mean, it was hundreds, but,
So what's the difference between 1, 2, and 3?
So level one, we're building the main foundations and helping you understand the two main protocols of NKT. And then once you've kind of got that nice stable foundation, we start teaching you more in-depth concepts, if you will, and how to maybe fine-tune your recipes.
Okay.
So it's not looking at this body of 641 muscles plus all these ligaments and potential scars. It's like, okay, how can I narrow this down? You know, because each session's kind of like a game of Clue. It's like,
Right.
all I know walking in is you got shoulder pain. So that means there was a murder in the library. Right? Who was involved? I have no idea. Who did it? I don't know yet.
Hopefully that injury is not from a murder, but
Right,
you know, I mean,
right. But, ultimately, it's like I've got to test now around that shoulder and figure out, okay, which muscles are not getting full signal,
right,
and then who's the guy who did it?
right.
Right.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And
That's pretty
so, going through the different levels helps me fine tune based on, well, it's these two muscles and they're in this subsystem. So that's going to help me fine tune this correction a little better or think
Right.
next level.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So one level is kind of just building on the next level, but level one tends to be pretty overwhelming for people.
Oh, yeah.
So we're trying to keep it as less material as possible, and we do a lot of support. So after I teach level one here in Phoenix twice a year, fall and spring, and I do study groups about once a month to assist the students. And it doesn't matter what field you come in from, because we teach anyone in the health and fitness industry that's looking for continuing education. But I mean, I'll have a physical therapist have a meltdown right next to the yoga instructor. So it doesn't matter what tools you come into.
Right.
Everybody's a blank slate learning this new. I will say, like the physical therapist and the athletic trainers who've had applied kinesiology, so they already come in having some muscle testing in their background, tend to pick it up a little faster. But
Yeah.
sometimes they have to kind of unlearn what they've learned because we're doing a different type of muscle testing. So,
Right.
yeah.
So when's the next time that you're teaching level one?
So next level one here in Phoenix is October 28th and 29th.
Okay. And then do you teach level two
I
and
do
level
teach-
three?
I teach level one and level two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who
You
teaches level three?
So David Weinstock himself will be here in March next year
Really?
doing
Oh,
the
wow.
level three. Yeah. So he's the creator. Here's his fancy little book here. The book, honestly, no offense, but I got the book, I was all excited, signed up, ready to go to the workshop. I looked at the book and it made no sense. And I was like, this is a bunch of cool pictures. But then after you take the workshop, you really understand the value of the book.
Yep, I agree.
So,
I did the same thing.
If anybody's listening right now and you go get the book, like it's great only if you're going to take the class. Like if you're not going to take the class, buying the book's a waste of your time.
I got it before I did my level one, and I'm just like, okay.
That's
And
great
then-
pictures,
And then
right?
I took it, and then I took the weekend class, and I'm like, okay, now it makes 100%.
Yeah.
It makes sense now. So
Yeah, the book is the tool, but you don't know how to use it until you've taken the class.
right.
Yeah.
I thought I was gonna get ahead. I didn't. I looked at it, I like put it
No.
back down. I'm like, I'm just gonna go to the class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Like the only thing you really need to know going into level 1 NKT is your anatomy.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't muscle test if you don't know what muscles are or where they're at or what they're called. Or what
Right.
you're
Like
gonna
you
be.
need to know where the psoas is in order to test it. And then if it's not functional, you need to know who might be the main players you'd want to call on. So,
Right.
So I need to take anatomy like 4 more times before I go in to get it drilled into my head of what muscles what. So.
Well,
Yeah.
we've had a few graduates go through that,
yeah,
through the level one.
you have.
Yeah. And they enjoyed it. They looked at me like, yeah, it was a lot, but did you understand it? And they all said, yeah, I understand it. I get
That's
it."
cool.
Yeah.
I really, my whole point of getting into NKT, other than fixing myself, was the change I wanted to make in the fitness industry. Because one of the reasons I love your school is the good quality trainers that come out of the school.
Right.
Because unfortunately there's not a lot of regulation,
None.
in the industry. So basically anybody can throw on a shirt that says personal trainer and be a personal trainer, right?
Yep.
So, ultimately being able to say, hey, your whole right side, your whole right leg's not even getting signal right now. Like before we go take you through your leg day routine, like let's make sure your quads are firing, your glutes are firing, your hamstrings are firing.
Right.
Get everybody online, make sure your core is firing and able to stabilize you through those movements
Right.
before I'm going to go run you through a loaded squat.
There was one thing that I heard. I went through the National Personal Training Institute as well in Oregon, and one of the things that I heard the very first weeks that stuck with me ever since, and I mentioned to the class usually week 1 of every new term, is never add performance on top of dysfunction.
Right.
And that happens in every single gym. They're just feeding the beast because you don't know what you're looking at. You're like, I don't know why you can't get to depth without your hip flexors hurting. Why does that hurt? Just do it anyway. If you want to get to your goals, you're gonna have to go to 90 degrees on your squat, but it hurts. Well, I don't know what to tell you, and that happens all the time. I see, the box gym that I go to. I'm not gonna name it, but I just walk in, I look at the trainers. I'm like, what are all of you doing?
You want me to name it?
None of it makes
Don't
sense.
name
No,
it. That's not nice.
No,
That's not
I
nice.
wasn't going to. I was just kidding.
but it's there's a huge you've got your certified trainer that reads a book, and then you've got those that maybe started there, but they got tons of continuing education. They didn't stop learning. That's one route to go.
Yeah.
Another route is just to get the best foundation you can just starting off. So you were a trainer, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. For when you owned your gym, did you just do spin, or did you do
No, I
have
was
one-on-one
personal
clients
training.
and all
Yeah,
that?
I started out as a personal training and picked up spin and all the group fitness stuff later.
Yeah.
Because being the owner, you have to jump in and help out in places you don't want to sometimes, So, yeah. So I had to crash course myself on a lot of this stuff until I could take the official. But, I started out as a personal trainer, wanting to empower people. And, it's rough looking at what goes on in the industry. That's for sure. So I wanted to do it from a safe place of making sure before we go load that,
Right.
let's make sure we do it with our own body weight.
Yeah.
And, but again, I love the fitness industry, love being a trainer. But once I learned NKT, I'm like, I got to share this with the world. And how much more effective is the personal trainer going to be when I've got all my muscles firing with full signal,
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And how much better is my client going to feel? Because I can get on a leg press right now and fake it till I make it with my leg press. But that doesn't mean that both of my glutes are going to fire equally,
Right.
And trainers that are learning NKT are going to tap into making sure both of my glutes are even online, and then maybe even thinking, okay, well, if the right glute's struggling more than the left, and 3 or 4 times we've checked they're always offline, then maybe I need to start single legging things, until I can get things firing properly, so that I don't end up having my left glute overworking for the lack of my right glute wanting to signal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just seeing a faulty movement pattern would be nice,
Yeah.
starting off. If you can just go, why is that happening? And then try to figure it out instead of going, I don't know. I don't know why you have asymmetrical weight shift on a back squat. Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Just be aware of it instead of going, how can we fix that? And that's what NKT can do. But I think it's an extremely valuable tool. That's why I took it. My director in Portland's like, you need to take this.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what I was walking into. He explained it to me in his layman's terms, and I'm like, I still don't know what you're saying. So that first day was overwhelming. I went home with a headache.
Well, I went home and cried after level 1. I was like, I think I just wasted my money. I don't even know what I just did. But,
Yeah.
I hired a mentor, got the support I needed, and I'm very grateful because it's big time change.
Yeah. And that's what's great about what, even in Portland, there was, monthly gatherings at some place where, you'd have somebody practicing, showing you maybe some new stuff, and you do that monthly. Do you do that online, or you do that at locations?
Well, not everybody has the luxury of having, multiple NKTs in the area. Like Phoenix is one of the largest gatherings of NKT actually in the world.
Really?
Like, we have
wow.
a lot of NKTs here in the Phoenix Metro. And I say a lot, but there's less than 50 of us.
Wow.
But that's still more than other places in the world. Like I think Hong Kong has like 17 level 3s. And
Wow.
Here in Phoenix, we have maybe 13, 14 level 3 status. But like once the next level 3 comes here, that number will go up for us.
Yeah.
So we're gravely outnumbered.
Yeah, I know when I went through it, this was roughly 10 years ago, about that. I know that there were some sports teams that were adopting people that knew of Neuro Kinetic Therapy to have along with their athletic trainers and their physical therapists.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's grown exponentially since then, but I would think that that's something that sports teams would want to have,
Yeah,
even from the collegiate
For
level.
sure.
Yeah, we're trying to get more athletic trainers involved. But yeah, we've had, the Cubs hired us to come in privately and do a class just for their staff that's working on the athletes.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of athletic trainers from baseball and, NBA, a lot of football, a lot of golfer people.
Yeah.
What are they called for the golfers? Like a coach?
Golfers?
Well,
Oh, you're talking
the
about
guy
the,
that- the trainer,
Swing coach?
the
yeah, I don't know.
specialist. I don't know what that term is, for no offense to the golfer people, but
right. Yeah, that's, you would think that they would have more of that, of NKT in professional sports, because there's so many injuries in professional sports.
Yeah.
well,
Because no
it's
matter how
still not
you-
even well heard of.
All right.
And it's not even just injuries, it's performance.
Mm-hmm.
And just a quick story. The first time you came in, I had a different instructor. His name was Aaron. And remember him talking about how he could only do 3 pull-ups? This guy was in shape. He was really in shape, and he could only do 3 pull-ups. This guy worked on him, got his lats to fire. He did 20. He could have kept going. And he
Wow.
was just like, he was looking at me like, I don't know what just happened. I'm
So,
like,
so
"Magic."
can you work on me so I can do 20 pull-ups?
Well, you're only as strong as your
You're
nervous
right,
system
yeah.
allows you to be.
What are you saying?
I'm just,
Work on your nervous system.
Yeah.
I need to work on working out.
You actually got to work out too. Like,
Yeah.
I can give you the full potential that you have, but what is that potential?
Yep.
Right. But,
Right. So how many, you have several offices here in Phoenix and then somewhere else, right?
well, just around Phoenix, I hop
Okay.
around, because Phoenix is like 100 miles wide. And I'm trying to build up the NKT community within Phoenix so people don't have to travel and so I don't have to travel.
Yeah.
But
For sure.
yeah, I have an office in Chandler and Tempe. Every now and then I come over to Gilbert where you guys are, work out of the gym there. And then I have an office up in Scottsdale.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking for some reason you had one out of town or something.
No, I go out of town to teach
Okay.
and I've flown out to work on people, but I don't have a physical location outside of Phoenix.
Where are some places you've gone outside of the country, or have you, to teach?
I haven't gone outside of the country yet.
Stayed in?
Yeah. Yeah, there's, I think NKT's taught in like 35 countries maybe, but there's different instructors over in that area.
So,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Have you kept in contact with Ruben?
I have.
How's he doing?
He's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty interesting having Ruben there in class that day.
Oh, Ruben, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's my movement mojo guy. Yeah. And NKT is all about correcting movement. And then, once you correct that movement pattern, then you want to do some integrations. And so that's where he comes into play to do the integration side of things.
Where's he from? Is it Guatemala or Ecuador?
Costa Rica.
Okay.
Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing.
Yeah.
He had some great energy. The class was just blown away by that.
Yeah, that's because all the girls were like, "Oh my gosh, he's hot."
He was like,
I'm like, he's a
what's the guy that
barefoot
plays
hippie.
Puss, what's the guy that plays Puss in Boots? That's who he reminds me of. Antonio Banderas.
Oh,
Is that
yeah,
who it
yeah.
is?
That's it.
That's
Yeah,
who
for
he
sure.
reminds me of.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, he was a very interesting guy.
Yeah.
So,
That was fun.
yeah, all the students loved him too.
Yeah.
So,
And NKT really changed the way he does his movement
I'm sure.
because he also teaches in the industry for Carl Sterling in the Parkinson's regeneration. So it's a lot
wow.
of neuromotor training and helping people who have neuropathy from either like Parkinson's or diabetes
right.
or maybe they are a TBI or something, from a brain injury, whatever.
Mhm.
So he's helping getting signal back.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So is that something you can do with Parkinson's?
Yeah.
I thought Parkinson's, you just kind of lost motor control and like couldn't stay still,
There's ways around it.
Oh, wow.
It's not all NKT. It's not NKT stuff. NKT can help with some of their
Right.
symptoms, but that's more of like vagus nerve and gut stuff.
And on neuropathy for diabetes, what can NKT do for that?
Get signal back, depending on.
Is it just getting blood flow? Because isn't that kind of what neuropathy is like the loss of blood flow to the extremities?
It's more nerve.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more nerve. I mean, probably loss of blood flow too. I mean, think of blood flow, lymph flow, nerve signal.
Right.
But it's, you have to think, why is the nerve not getting the signal there? And so sometimes it's an NKT can help, and sometimes it can't help. It just depends. Every situation's different.
Because I'm diabetic, and I thought that before I found out I was diabetic, I thought I had carpal tunnel because my 3 fingers from my pinky over were numb, and I thought it was carpal tunnel. And then I found out that I was diabetic, and I'm like, maybe that's neuropathy. And so I thought it was more of like just the blood flow. I didn't realize it was nerves or anything. I thought it was just blood flow not getting to those fingers because the sugar in the blood was making it thick. And that's the reason why, like if your hand goes to sleep, if you sit on your hand, it's going to go to sleep.
Right.
It felt that same way in those 3 fingers. So,
Well, here's the good thing about NKT is you'll know in the first appointment, if you get signal back and you get feeling back, then it's not from the diabetes.
really? Wow. Okay, I need your address of your office and schedule time. And
I mean, and that's the thing. It's like if you get the signal back and you can get the movement restored, sometimes it's just something pinching the nerve up and down the arm line or,
right.
up and down the fascial line.
Wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That's pretty cool.
I mean, we've even gotten movement restored in stroke victims.
Wow.
So will it help everybody? It's up to the person. Everybody's different. We have to look at each person individually.
Yeah.
And with like diabetes, we also want to clean up like the lymphatics and the underlying inflammation and clean up diet and stuff like that.
Yeah. Let's talk about this real quick. So as a personal trainer, people think of personal trainers as somebody who just goes out and assigns sets and reps, different exercises, and talks about nutrition, when there's so much more to it than that. And that's what I found right away when I began my career, is that there's these avenues you can go down. You can add these tools to your tool belt to make you far more than just a rep counter. And NKT is one of those things. Just like FST, just like PNF stretching. There's so many things that you can add, even lymphatic, like you can get educated on lymphatics. Mm-hmm. You can learn how to help somebody clean up their, as you call it, the sewer system or fish tank. It sounds better, fish tank.
Right.
But there's so many things, and that's what's really cool about Skye is that she's gone down these avenues. She's got not only a team, but she's got this education that she can help so many people. It's not just about gaining muscle. I know maybe that's somebody's goal in the beginning. I want to gain muscle, or I want to lose weight. Okay, well, we've gone through this for 2 months, and you're not losing weight. What else could it be? And if you have those tools, you can help them more instead of going, I don't know, go see somebody, which is a good thing. We want to network. We want to have people to our disposal where we can go, hey, I'm at the end of my rope with my education. I can't help you any further, or this isn't my realm. Here's somebody to go to. And we talk about this in class all the time, is creating that network. But when it comes to personal training, what kind of other things would you say encompasses that as a well-educated trainer, like somebody that can do far more than just your regular commercial gym trainer that just got a certification? What would you recommend them do?
Well, I mean, number one, they're already going through your training program, so that's already going to set them aside. Then I took some online certification or
Right.
some 2-day weekend warrior course, and then I'm a trainer. So your program's very extensive, and but ultimately, that's a hard question to answer because it depends on the person and how they want to work with people.
Right.
You know, I like how NKT gives them a whole different way of focusing at the body and making sure things are online and focusing. Now I'm not just a rep counter. I'm going to focus on these very specific exercises because this is where they're always testing weak when I'm doing the NKT with them. But aside from that, if I want to be the best of the best in the industry, as a personal trainer, I'm going to want to learn how to release someone if I can. So I usually recommend trainers learning some form of stretching technique or release technique that they may want to learn to make them more well-rounded,
Yeah.
Overlooking the lymphatic system is a huge boo-boo. So I think any way you can try to throw some lymph at it.
Can you? So I know what the lymphatic system is, but you talk about it in a way that I've never thought about doing. Can you explain to me? Like, I've heard you say this in class. How do you explain the lymphatic system and why it's important?
Well, again, we have to fall back on most people don't know anything.
Right.
Most people, when I'm working on them, don't even know they have a diaphragm. Right? Or if
Correct.
I'm like, oh, your lymphatic system might be part of your chronic inflammation. They're like, well, yeah, I have a few lymph nodes, like right here and, in my growing department. But it's like, no, you actually have 700 lymph nodes or more throughout your whole body.
Wow.
And you have certain gatherings of those nodes. Like this would be one of those large gathering of nodes, which is why you know about that area. But ultimately, I try to tell people those are one of your main filters. Like everybody knows, like, okay, I have gut filters. I have the liver, I have the kidney, right? So if they're going to know that, that'll be the one thing they do know, if they know something about their body. But they don't really realize that the lymphatic is the main filter, like cleaning out the system. And, if I have a dirty fish tank, I can't absorb the good nutrients that I'm putting in. I can have a very clean, beautiful diet where I'm growing everything in my backyard organically. But if I have a dirty fish tank, my body is not going to absorb it. So that's how I try to explain it to people is you got to go in and clean your fish tank. It's kind of like going to the dental hygienist. You got to brush your teeth every day. That's our daily movement. That's our daily flush. But I got to go get the deep clean from the dental hygienist twice a year. So that's where I refer out for people to go get special lymphatic work. I can tap myself every day and jump around on my rebounder or whatever, but if I've got a clogged lymph node, that's not going to push through. That's where I need a professional to come in and help get the flow back.
How would you do that?
Well, I recommend my lymph lady. She's got these special fancy
You have
little
a lymph
wands.
lady?
I
Lymph
do.
lady?
I deemed her the lymph lady, but she owns Lymph Life AZ, and it's basically you lay on a table and they're wanding your whole body. And no offense to the manual therapist, but of those 700 lymph nodes, a third of them are from our neck up.
Wow.
And the main reason for that is to drain our brain, right? So these wands and their frequencies can get through the skull and actually drain the lymph around the brain that a manual therapist can't get to. So I like to go get wanded and use her magic wands. And she's got special wands that also help with scars. So like if you've got a lot of abdominal scars and you want to make sure those scars aren't growing what I call roots around your different organs and anchoring down to things that you don't want it to anchor down to. Like, NKT goes in and it stops the brain from signaling that scar and growing the roots in the first place. But then, if that scar's been there 10 or 15, 20 years, there's some roots there. So you need a manual therapist to go in and break it up. But some areas are hard to reach. And that's where the lasers and the lights and the things like that can come in and those special tools.
Right.
to help out.
So, like, I remember in class you were talking about if you needed to massage an area, like I was supposed to massage my scapula, and you were talking about using a Theracane and not using a Theragun, right?
Oh yeah.
Is that like an always thing, or can you use a Theragun like on
It depends on
sore
the person.
muscles and stuff like that?
Well, there's different reasons to use different tools. And from an NKT perspective, when we're trying to do a release, we're trying to calm the nervous system down with that. So a Theragun on certain areas can end up being perceived threat for some people.
Too much. Yeah.
It can be too much. But some people need that type of release to even feel like it's working. So it
Right.
depends on the nervous system.
Okay.
But 9 times out of 10, most people overdo the release.
Right.
So I tend to say, hey, let's do moderate pressure. Don't bruise yourself. You may need a therapist to go in and strip some tissue, and that's not going to feel good or be fun, but that's a different type of release than what we're doing with an NKT.
Okay.
Both are important, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got some nasty scars or, super fibrotic tissue from whatever.
I'd never even heard of a Theracane, and my wife bought one online, and I didn't see it when she bought it. And then one morning we were having coffee, and I look over and I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?"
It's a big candy cane.
Yeah, well, it's got like these little
Yeah.
Weird
little
knobby
arms and
thing.
stuff on it,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, well, there's many ways to release a muscle, and I just tell people do the way that works best for your body and your nervous system.
Yeah, we did some foam rolling in class this week. I believe it was Monday, might have been Wednesday. But there's certain muscles that people don't realize that may be inflamed or mad. That
Yeah.
we like the piriformis. Every time I sit on a foam roller and roll out my piriformis, I make that face.
Yeah.
And nobody's, we don't really talk about the piriformis too much. We've only got 11 weeks to go over, the main muscles, that being kind of one of them, but not.
Right.
We don't really go over it. I talk about it, but I get everybody in position to roll it out. Like it's just a really small area. It's like an inch. Just lean to the left, grab that foot, and
Yep.
then they're like, I don't know where it's at. I can't find it. And all of a sudden their face lights up. They're like, ah. And it's a
Like,
combination of it feels good and it doesn't at the same time.
Right.
It's like I was confused the first time we did that in class when I was going through the school in Portland. I'm like, whoa, what is that? Why does that hurt?
Oh yeah.
Kind of for the reason what we're doing now. We're sitting on our butt all day.
Yep.
But it's it's a external rotator. It's kind of funny, that people don't realize that there might be some issues that haven't been diagnosed, and maybe these undiagnosed issues are what's creating pain during movement. And I think that's what's great about NKT is we can figure out how to make you perform better or perform without pain, and not just in the gym, but just in general life. Just regular movement. Why does this hurt?
Yeah, and it's so weird that last term I wasn't there, and I won't be able to be there Monday. I wish I was. I'm going to be out of town. But last term you had one of the students that had a belly button piercing.
Oh yeah,
And the belly button piercing
that's
was
all it was.
So when I went to teach, she came in and I was like, "So you saw Skye yesterday, and how did that go?" And she goes, "Oh my gosh, it's my belly button piercing was the problem." And I'm like, you probably shouldn't have got that in the first place.
Nobody knows though.
I know,
Yeah,
but that's just crazy that something that small
yeah.
could cause something else not
That's
to work
a major meridian. So ask any acupuncturist about it, and they'll say that's a major no-no.
right. Yeah,
But, NKT filtering into the fitness industry, if you will, is a beautiful thing, in my opinion, because think of how many people are running around there hurting. They've got chronic knee pain or shoulder pain or back pain, and they went to all the normal go-tos, and nobody's really giving them any help. And now they're showing up in front of their trainer bitching about it, and maybe their trainer just took NKT, and they're like, hey, let me try this.
right.
And then it ends up being the thing that helped them get out of pain.
Yeah.
Like, how beautiful is that?
Yeah.
That if we can get more trainers in the industry to learn this tool, that a lot of people aren't going to have to suffer as long as they've been suffering. Because, like, you suffered for 2 years in something that we cleaned up in a couple
Right.
minutes.
Yeah, we need a ticker in class.
see who gets fixed the quickest.
No, to see how many times you're mentioned in the term.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
Because
thank you.
it's crazy because it's
Yeah.
always somebody comes in, they're like, yeah, this hurts, and you're like, you need to see Skye.
Yeah, I'm always.
So if there's a ticker
Well,
on the
I
wall that just
appreciate
goes,
the referrals,
tick,
the
tick.
Skye ticker.
Yeah, it's always the same, and I'm such a believer that somebody says something like, I've got this pain, I've had it forever, I've gone here. I'm like, can I give you a number? And then I try to explain what it is, and I'm like, you're not gonna get it. Just go see her.
you just need a plaque on the wall. Just call Skye.
Better call Skye.
Better call Skye. right before you said that, I was thinking the same thing.
You
Better
injured?
call Skye.
Better call Skye.
Should that be my tagline now? Like,
That's a good
instead
one.
of what would Jesus do? What would Skye do?
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'm looking forward to Monday because it's, we're going to have about 15 plus people in there. I got the night class to come in, and I think we're going to have some other people come in because they keep hearing me talk about it. I'm like, you have to see it first to understand it.
Yeah.
And then it's one after another gets up on the table. I've got this going on, and then they get up and they're like, I can't believe it. What just happened? And it's just over and over and over again. So I've got, more than half the class rose their hand when I say, who's got injuries? And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
Get on the table. And one of them was just, was it Wednesday night when I taught. She kept mentioning, because we were going over back squats. The movement of the week is back squats. So we went over how to cue, teach, perform back squats with the barbell, and then simplified it with other modalities and other tools. But she couldn't do a squat without pain. She could get not even 90 degrees. It was like 70 degrees of flexion in the knee. And then she had real severe forward lean. So I'm like, hip flexors are really taking over on this. So they're tight, but why is there pain there? And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I'm scratching my head. I'm like, why would that happen? Let's put some plates on your heels. So we put some plates on her heels, elevated. She could get lower, but still there was a little bit of pain. And then we tried something. We put one of those booty bands around her knees, had her do a squat and press out. So abduct, go on a squat, zero pain. None. And she was like, what just happened? I'm like, maybe your minimus and medius are shot. There's no signal. Maybe it's some other things. But that's my first thought is it's going to be, you just activated them. You went into a squat, no pain. There's more to it. So when you come in on Monday, when Skye says, anybody have any injuries, you raise your hand immediately.
Make sure she's first on the table.
There's going to be a line of people. As soon as you say that, they're going to shoot their hands up and
So bring a lunch is what you're saying.
pack a lunch. This is going to be a long one.
Well, I just think, so here again, like the more trainers that are learning this, like if you would have kept up with your NKT, you'd have been like, hey, let me test those glute medians or the glute mids and see what they're doing in relation to maybe the adductors or whatever. And that's the beautiful thing about NKT is you don't have to guess where the problem is.
Yeah.
Once you learn the protocols, you know exactly where the problem is.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to take it again. October. I'll be there.
It'll be fun to have you in class.
I have forgotten so much.
I should probably take it.
You should. You should, yeah. I
I
think
probably won't understand half of it. I need to go through anatomy
you
again.
go through anatomy. Yeah, you need to come in on Mondays when I teach it.
When you register, there is a anatomy test that comes with the course.
Right.
So, because a lot of people,
Also, I
they're
would,
20
I would
years in
fail
the
the
industry.
test, and
Yeah,
I
you
wouldn't
can
even
fail
be able
the
to get
test,
in.
and you'll
Like, you
see-
can't take NKT level
No,
one
it's
because
like, you got to
have-
think a lot of people maybe took anatomy 20 years ago when they went to college. So
Yeah.
it's a test to see, okay, here's where you're at. And, then you can go through and study within the little pretest to see, okay, here's where I'm weak and what I need to freshen up on.
right.
Yeah, you're not going to be muscle testing all 641 muscles. It's just
No,
like, how many would you say that you need to know?
Level 1 is just the main movers, which is what you're learning in personal training already, the big movers.
Right.
You don't have to know all the small little intrinsic muscles, but the main movers, probably about maybe 100, 150 of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not bad.
I mean,
Yeah, and we chunk it.
I think I know all of them. I just don't know all the names of them. And if you put it out on a sheet, I probably couldn't point out which one each one.
So maybe we need to get Josh.
We need a crash course,
Yeah.
Josh.
Who is that? Who's the person that paints the muscles on your body, or not?
So That's immaculate dissection. That's Dr. Kathy Dooley and Danny Quirk and Anna Volkamer. They came together and created a course where they paint the anatomy on the body. And so it's an actual live human.
Wow.
And they're putting them through movement so you can actually see the anatomy move. And then you're able to sit there and palpate on the actual person, which is kind of cool.
Well,
And it's live tissue instead of.
Well, my wife now teaches anatomy on Monday nights at the school,
Oh, nice.
and because she's a nurse,
Well,
and
see,
she
you got in-home
she
help right
I
here.
know
What you
I can just
complaining for?
have her write
Yeah,
on my
just
body
get
what
the
each
anatomy
muscle
coloring
is.
book and you're good.
Right. Yeah, I can just have her do it and just say this is what muscle this is and permanent marker, and then I walk into class and it's like I got tattoos for.
Yeah, that look cool.
So yeah, she's really excited. She enjoys teaching the class and stuff, and she's always been into anatomy and she loves anatomy. So
It's incredibly important as a personal trainer to know anatomy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the crazy thing is that these online certs don't teach anatomy.
right.
I'm like, aren't we missing like a really big piece of this? So
Yeah.
can't fix what you don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, awareness is the first thing in getting the awareness out there. Like, NKT's not been public for very long. Like I said, what was it, 10 or 11 years ago when I first heard about it, there was only like 2 or 3 people in the state of Arizona
Oh wow.
doing it at that time.
Yeah.
So we're growing the community, trying to get the knowledge out there. But, here's a big one for me, as a female, I don't want a sneezy peasy,
Mm-hmm.
And like every time I call for sneeze, I don't want to have to run and change my clothes,
Right.
And especially, when that started happening in my 30s after having a baby, and most of us are told by our gynecologist, well, that's just normal. And if it keeps happening or getting worse, then we'll have to talk about a bladder sling or something. And it's like,
Oh, wow.
no.
A diaper.
Mm.
And it's like, no. And in my situation, it was a 1-session fix. And
Wow.
in many women's situations, it's usually a one and done. Sometimes there needs to be 2 or 3 appointments to fully clean it up.
I had no idea you could even fix that because I thought the same thing. I thought it was just something that just happens after you've had kids and or gotten older or anything like
No.
something like that.
A weak pelvic floor, right?
It's just a weak pelvic floor, and probably
Wow.
any woman that's had a baby is going to have some pelvic floor dysfunction and some diaphragm dysfunction, and we just got to get them to start communicating nice to each other again.
Wow.
I've had clients in the past. I think most of my clientele when I was in Portland as an independent coach, most of them were 35 to 65-year-old women, and a lot of them had those issues. I'm like, all right, hey, have you ever jumped rope? She's like, not happening. Why? Why are we not going to jump rope? Because
And it's not her knee pain.
because I might pee myself. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, in that case, we're not going to do it. But had I had the knowledge on, well, I don't even know if I would want to work on that, quite honestly. I don't know where you would need to go for NKT for that. It might be something where if you have that issue, you might want to have a woman work on you. Because some of it is, we got to palpate some areas. But if that's something that I could have fixed, I would have definitely done it, because a lot of women have had this forever and they're afraid to do certain movements, in
Well-
fear of that happening.
Well, is that something they could fix themselves if you had like
Yeah.
a dummy that you could show them where to?
Well, think of it like this. I'm a trainer. I don't palpate.
True.
So, and even if I could, I don't know that I'd want to, well, depending on the person. But anyway, my point is like when it's that area and like episiotomy scars, and for you gentlemen, the what's it called? The snipping clip for you guys? Vasectomy.
Vasectomy, yeah.
Vasectomy scars. Hey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like one of my, you asked about scary moments, like first appointment preacher man coming in with a vasectomy scar and I have to fix his pelvic floor. Yeah, that was a party. I was like, do we pray about this first? Like, do I need to call somebody, go through confession?
Right.
But so as a personal trainer, you can use a different part of their body to test their pelvic floor, so you don't ever have to touch them there.
Okay.
And then you can teach them how to do what I call Pegels and Kegels and Pugels and other pelvic floor activations to get the signal back. Because 9 times out of 10, it's underactive and it needs more signal there.
Right.
And it's usually something like the diaphragm or their scar being over-signaled and pulling from the pelvic floor. So we teach them how to release their diaphragm or the scar and get the signal back to the pelvic floor. And then anytime they have sneezy peasy situation, they can just go back to their old homework.
Mm-hmm.
You don't remember that from NKT level 1?
No, I don't.
It's because he didn't have me as the instructor. Actually, we don't teach that in level 1.
Right. Yeah. That was.
Is that 3?
That is, you'd learn that at level 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So what does level 1 look like as opposed to 2, and what's 3 look like? So what's it look like as a student going through it?
So as a student going through, level 1 is the foundation. And then in level 2, we're building on that foundation through having them look at like the subsystems and also diving deep into the jaw and the diaphragm and rotational patterns. And then in level 3, we're going to tap into muscles around the eye, hyoid muscles.
Oh, wow.
Those tend to be very limbic responses for people, which is why we wait till level 3. So if someone does have that limbic emotional response on the table, you know how to kind of deal with it or be aware of it. But we learn how to deal with eyes, hyoid, ligaments, like pelvic ligaments, ankle sprains, any kind of ligament dysfunction, and pairing up of non-testable structures.
Very cool. Yeah. And these are just weekend classes still, right?
So there are 2-day workshops, and then after that, we request that you practice a minimum of 50 hours or about a month, and then you would do 3 case studies and then do a live test out in front of either your instructor or someone who's qualified.
Okay.
So is that before you're granted the certificate for level 1?
So after you attend the workshop, yes, you would, before you're certified, you would have to log at least 50 hours of practice and then do the 3 case studies and the test out.
Oh, okay.
And then you would be a certified level 1.
So did you just took the course, but you weren't certified?
No, I got certified.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
You went
But
through the
it
whole thing?
lapses after 2 years. So every 2 years, we make you recertify at your current level to make sure that you're continuing to do the work.
So just test again?
Yes,
You don't have to
just
go through the
retest.
class and all
No,
that
you don't
stuff.
have to. You just do 3 case studies and a live test out.
It's a diminishing skill. If you don't practice, you're gonna forget. And that's what happened with me. I mean, I was gung ho once I got through that. I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait to bring this to my clients. Nobody really cared about it too much. I was like, hey, I know your glute's not working. Can I get you on a table? No, I just want to lose weight. Oh, okay. Well, let's keep feeding the beast then. Let's go.
So how many
more
years
squats?
How many years ago was it that you did it?
I think it was probably 10 years ago. It's about the time where it was on my radar about 10, 11 years ago. I remember Eric talking about it a lot. I'm like, I don't know what you're saying right now, man. But he started to teach it in the Portland class. He brought NKT into that. Wasn't a deep dive into it. Nobody was getting certified, but he's talking about it and how it could help. And he was, bringing students up and working on them and all that sort of thing. So it was never actually put in the curriculum, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's awesome.
Yeah, once you learn it and you really hone it, like if you get through all 3 levels and you get a good 1,000 hours under your belt, then you're good to go.
Yeah, at that point, I don't think you'd forget. But
No.
Yeah.
I would say I don't remember maybe 2% of it.
Yeah.
To be honest, I know what it is. I can explain it, kind of.
Now that you have the audio from,
she explains it way better than I do. But yeah, it's you're gonna forget. You gotta keep doing it.
Well, it's just like with anything, you got to get enough of the reps in.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put it on an old tape and get you a little cassette player to
Yeah.
make it old school.
Right.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm gonna talk about NK. And
We'll
it's
just,
her.
we'll just play that clip of this podcast, the beginning of the first week.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't think anybody can explain it as well as she did. So
No, there's no way. So when is the next one, Skye?
So the next one's coming up in October here in Phoenix. And I do level 1 twice a year here, and then I do level 2 once a year.
Okay. So in October, do you have the dates yet?
It's the 28th and the 29th
Do we have a location?
at my Tempe location.
Tempe location.
Yeah.
Okay.
How can people find out more information about that or contact you if they need any NKT themselves?
Well, neurokinetictherapy.com has the directory on there, so they can find a therapist in their area. But also, there's a lot of information on the website about when the next seminars are coming up, and there's some blogs on there about,
Cool.
piriformis syndrome or
Right.
whatever. You can read about it.
Yeah.
And then otherwise, I don't even have a website. I'm terrible. I know. But that's the good thing about a network.
Yeah.
Is I've been in the Phoenix Metro for
Right.
25 years, and I network with a lot of local, people in the industry. So chiropractors, physical therapists, massage therapists, acupuncturists, personal trainers. Like I try to have at least 5 or 8 of them in each little city around the valley. So if you live in Glendale, you're going to drive to me to see an appointment,
Right.
for NKT, but you're not going to see me 3 times a week for your personal training
Sure.
appointment. So I'm going to try to, refer you to a Pilates studio or a personal training facility within 5 or 10 minutes of your house, and you're not going to want to drive an hour one way for your massage.
Right.
And then ruin it driving the hour back home.
Right.
So, but people will drive to get the NKT. So I try to network in all the areas, but because I've done that, I haven't really had to advertise now for many years, and I'm very grateful for that. So I don't.
But people can reach you on social media, like
there's
Instagram and
social
stuff like that.
media
So,
or,
and we'll put all that into the
you
description
can
of
put
the
my number
show.
up there. They just
Yeah.
give me a shout out. But yeah, I need to hire someone to do my website, my Instagram. So work in progress. Just putting
Social
that in.
media is so much fun.
It's almost like if you knew someone that did that.
I know, right? Like somebody sitting in the same room with me. Maybe we'll work something out.
Yeah, that would work because I have some other stuff that doesn't work great. So
Right. Look, I know somebody who can help you with that. So, but yeah, just I'm on the NKT directory, or they can reach out and find
Yeah.
me
okay,
on Instagram.
Real quick with networking before we wrap it up, this is something I think is incredibly important for personal trainers or anybody in the industry, health, wellness, fitness, whatever, is having that network. You mentioned that you haven't had to market. Well, create that network, create those funnels where you can help each other out.
right.
That's what I did in Portland, and I didn't have to advertise because once you're like, hey, I tell the classes all the time. I don't know how many have followed through with this, but there's ways to reach out to these people, gain their trust, have a cup of coffee, just say hi, meet each other. That's what we did. I reached out to you. I wanted to create that network, and it's the initial contact isn't that difficult. I mean, you can DM if you want to. I would prefer to email or maybe not call, maybe just warm it up first and then get that conversation going. But what's wrong with just sending out a letter, like a handwritten letter to, say, an acupuncturist or a LMT, because we work together. The LMT doesn't do personal training. I mean, there's some that do both, but most of them just stay on there, stay in their lane.
Right.
And say, hey, I'm a personal trainer. I'm looking to create a network. I want to send my people to somebody to get professionally stretched. That's all you have to say. It's already assumed that, hey, you send me people, I'm going to send you people.
Yeah.
And it's that easy. If you want to grow your business organically in a community, just reach out to people. They'll feed you if you feed them.
100%.
All you're doing is just creating just like a little tight-knit family of people that are there to help each other in any regard.
And that's what I even teach in the business class for the personal trainers to connect with other personal trainers. Because if you live in Scottsdale, North Scottsdale, and someone calls you and they're like, "Hey,
I'm in Gilbert.
I found you. Yeah, I found you as a personal trainer, but I live in Gilbert."
Right.
Well, I'm not going to drive to Gilbert to personal train you because that would be stupid.
Right.
So, but I've got all these friends. Let me get somebody specific for what you're looking for.
Yeah.
I even refer other NKTs in the metro because it's just not realistic,
Right.
for people to have to drive that far
Yeah.
if there's someone 5 minutes down the street who can do the same thing.
Right. Are we
Yeah.
competition as trainers?
No.
Yeah, kinda, but there's 4.5 million people in the valley. Last I checked, that might be
Yeah.
up by a couple 100,000. But it's we all have our own niches or
Right.
people we want to work with. We know who we want to work with. And have had people before that come to see me, the initial orientation, and we've talked. I'm like, look, I don't think I'm right for you,
Exactly.
Right.
but I do know somebody who I think you'd work with better.
Right.
Instead of taking the money and just
Yeah, because
going,
sometimes it's a personality clash,
Right.
You
Right.
know,
Yep.
or sometimes they want the hardcore raw person, and you're just not that person.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
And because one of the students was like, some people like that, get up, and it always reminds me of Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live, like down by the river.
Right.
Down
yeah,
by,
some people want that energy.
like I don't have that energy when I'm training someone, but other people
Yeah.
would.
Yeah, and
So-
some people want that, and some people are scared of that.
Some people need it.
Yeah, some people need it.
I
but,
need it.
You know,
I need somebody to yell at me.
As soon as my alarm goes off, I need somebody to get out of bed, get off your phone, move.
but ultimately, I think it's the quality of relationships, and it's really about building up a network of trusted people that you have relationships with. So
Right.
anytime I'm working with someone and referring someone, I've already been worked on by them.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I'm going to refer a trainer, it's like, okay, run me through a workout, and then let me run you through an NKT session. So when you refer someone to me, you know what they're showing up for.
Right.
When I refer someone to you, I know what they're showing up for.
Right.
And then it also, because I work with several like massage therapists, and different massage therapists have different touches. And some people want that deep tissue work, and some people don't want it.
I don't want that deep tissue.
Yeah, and
I don't
some
want-
people want, other things thrown in the mix to go with it. So when they have different modalities to go with that, then it's like, okay, this is going to be the better fit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm a wimp when it comes to massage. I can't stand so I don't ever get them because we were in Cancun and my wife was like, yeah, you need to go ahead and get a massage. Man, I thought he was ripping my calves apart. I was like, holy, that hurts. So
Well, sometimes that's the massage therapist's lack of knowledge of how to work with your nervous system. Because if someone goes in too hard on my nervous system, I'm going to straight into sympathetic mode, and I'm going to brace, and I'm not going to receive anything nicely.
I felt like donkey kicking him.
Yeah.
Get out of here,
Yeah.
because it was my calves. I have big calf muscles, and for whatever reason, when they go to massage it, it just feels like they're just ripping them out of my legs. So
Yeah. So that's where that might be an error on their end of they need to maybe go in a little easier and nicer for
well,
you.
I had one probably, 12 years ago, and it was at a massage place. I'm not going to say the name of it. And I went in and I was like, I want a soft massage. I don't want, somebody with their knee in my shoulder, doing something. Helga was not a soft massage. Helga, that's her
You
name.
shoulda
Her
known
name
by
was
the
Helga.
name. You should
I
have
was
turned
just like,
around by.
well, I didn't know that until I was already in there, and she's like, lay on the table. And I'm like, oh, crap. And it just, oh, man, I was like, never again. Nope, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but then half the population, that's their favorite therapist.
Yeah,
So-
probably. Yeah.
But the good Helga would, or whatever her name is, would have learned how to lighten up when she's working with you and go all in on the people who can handle it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's nervous system's going to respond differently.
I don't think she spoke English, but I think, oh my God, that hurts. It's kind of
Universal?
universal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even look on somebody's face would indicate how they feel as well.
Yeah, there
Cues.
doesn't need to be words. There's
Right.
plenty of physical and verbal cues. There's plenty of other cues.
Beating the table in my
That
hand.
yeah, I mean that's enough sign that a good trained therapist should have known better,
Yep.
in my opinion. Hence the need. They probably need some continuing education.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, cool.
Yeah.
I think we said enough. I think we said
Yep.
it all. Actually, there's
Yeah.
much more. But why don't we wrap it up?
We just have to bring you back.
Yeah.
Just have to come back for again.
Well, it's been fun.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you on Monday.
Nice.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I
Looking
wish I was
forward
going to be
it.
there.
It's one of my favorite days of the term when Skye comes in.
It's
I just sit in the back
exciting.
and just smile and go, "Yep, I told you."
Yep.
Fun.
And that
And,
way,
and the cool thing is they can replicate this too once they learn it.
Yeah.
It's not me; it's the modality. You
Yep.
know, so they can be magic too.
and then we just give her the remote to clear the clicker when she
Yeah.
comes in.
Yeah.
I'm gonna build one Skye
Yeah.
clicker. Every
And
time we
then-
say Skye, it's gonna go ding.
and then just have a little glitter bomb like confetti set up. So like once we clean up the pattern and they feel amazing, we can hit the glitter bomb and confetti drops out, and it's
man.
it's a Christmas miracle.
That room would be a mess.
In Japan, they have this thing called a kusadama. It's a ball that opens up and confetti falls out and the little sign falls out and everything. So
That's
we
what
could build a
need.
little kusadama up there.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think that would enhance the effectiveness of the correction.
And then when new students come in, they're like, what's that thing that says Skye ticker and there's a 0? 1. They're like, when I said Skye, it went,
2.
oh my gosh, it 2. Why when I say Skye, it 3? It's like
Yeah.
Pee-wee's Playhouse. Ah, he said Skye.
Oh, you guys. Well, too, it's like, thank you for the compliments, but that's the thing with NKT is it's hard not to get a big head. You have to really ego check yourself once you learn this work, because you are helping people when other things and other people haven't helped. So
Right.
you have to keep your ego in check of, it's not me that fixed you. You fixed yourself. I just helped you read your own roadmap a little better.
Yeah.
Your body's doing all the work. I just helped you figure it out a little faster. But it's hard not to get a big head when people are like, oh, you're an angel of God, because you took my pain of 20 years away in 1 minute.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But
Yeah.
I appreciate the ego boost today. 100%. I appreciate it. But yeah, anybody can replicate this. That's the
Yeah.
beautiful thing about it is
Yep.
you can go through and be a magician too if you want to.
You just got to know anatomy.
You just got to know anatomy.
So I can't be a magician.
No, you just have to study. You've
I know.
You've got your own teacher at home.
I know.
Got several of them
I
in the
know.
family.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, your wife's a nurse, your daughter's a massage therapist.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
is there a better setup?
Both of them need to go through NKT.
Well, maybe I should just apply for the family discount.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk
when-
about the website
When
and then
5 or
make
more register, like if you
There
could
you
just
go,
get
yeah.
2 more family members involved.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, Emily's a triplet,
Oh,
and
there
then
you
she
go.
has an older sister too. So
There you go.
there's
Just tell 'em
4
to
of
get
them
their-
and my
just
wife. So
tell
there's
'em to
5
get it-
right there.
Yeah, tell them to get it together.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
y'all have 3 months to pull it together. Okay.
Plenty of
Sounds
time.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. This was super fun.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it was great to have you.
Always awesome to have you. I'll see you again on Wednesday or Monday.
Sounds good.
So
Awesome.
sweet.
Thank you.